This video, I'm going to share with you my experience of working in the UK service sector economy. This makes up about 80% of jobs. I mostly work in sectors such as cleaning, retail, warehouse, and call centers. And as these jobs are entry level, low skilled, they also tend to be the lowest paying jobs. Now, here in the UK, if you're 20 or over, each employer is mandatory by law that they have to pay you at least £13.45 per hour worked. So they can't pay you any less and they can't pay you more if they decide to do so, but that's very rare. It's unlikely that's going to happen. You're mostly going to start on the lowest paying pay bracket. And most jobs, they provide on-the-job training, which can last anything from 2 days up to 4 to 6 weeks. And this is where you learn about the company policies, how the expectations, and they basically tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and what performance expectations are when it comes to targets. And if you meet all these expectations, it's most likely going to mean that you're going to have job security. So you're going to have continuous work. They're going to trust you more and more. So they're either going to give you more hours or extra days, particularly if you're a part-time worker, and you're also more likely to be considered for promotion. However, because outside of work I didn't have a life, and when people get to know that, I realized some people will become more standoffish and less friendly or less caring towards you. So I felt like you were just turning up to work, but people didn't really acknowledge you as a person. You were more just like a worker, and I felt like a robot. However, when they asked me to do extra days and work extra hours, I would typically say yes as a low-paying worker, because it was always nicer to earn more if it was possible to do so. And I would always try my best to meet targets, to work the extra hours, the extra days. And but at the same time, after a while, I started to feel a bit lonely and isolated on a job, because I felt like, well, there's not really any human connection to you. I'm just a worker. And I would go home feeling very demoralized, frustrated, and I would have sometimes feeling stressed. I would have trouble, difficulty sleeping, relaxing. And after a while, this would add up. So I would go to work feeling not really looking forward to it, feeling stressed. And also, in a way, I felt like it was a passive bullying environment, particularly if people would go past you, they wouldn't look at you, they wouldn't say hello to you. And this became quite toxic after a while, and in many ways it ended up me not performing to my full potential, just not really caring about doing that, because I felt like the care wasn't being reciprocated towards me anyway, so why should I put the extra effort? And after a while, I realized that most of these jobs or these organizations, they only persuaded you for the job that you did, and I didn't feel like I had any more career prospects to learn, to progress to to more responsibility, to a higher pay grade. So I decided to, at some point, leave before I started to develop too much depression on a job, because I was already having a challenging situation outside of work, where I had to live in a disabled household with hostile relatives that were bitter and angry, and they would sometimes show that towards you. They wouldn't, and even at home, I didn't feel like a sense of respect towards me. I always felt isolated over the years, and this has had a detrimental impact on my well-being, where I started to develop health problems such as hypertension, becoming overweight, just feeling really disillusioned by life. And ultimately, for me, I realized that obviously life is too short to continuously feel unfulfilled, unrewarding, and demoralized. But at the same time, sometimes when you are in that situation, it's difficult to find opportunities to get out of it, particularly if you live in an area where the economic performance of that area is low. I mean, I live in Wales, which is one of the poorest areas of the UK. So, and really outside of London, that the opportunity to find well-paying jobs is quite rare and it's very scarce and it's very competitive, so it's hard to do that. But let me know your experience of working in a toxic environment, how it made you feel, how it impacted your performance and your mindset, and what was the final outcome. Did you have you worked for decades, or have you, or just a few months? I'd be interested to hear. Thank you.